I'd just like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today we'll be covering Tuscany. So it's an EnoGastronomic Adventure in Tuscany. And Laura will, which is from Top Travel Italy, will actually cover the elements of the tour. She'll talk about some of the dishes and some of the regional cuisine, which is available in Tuscany. Look, I won't bother to cover information on MasterChef because I know just about everybody listening to this is already a member of MasterChef, and I've covered that in the past. So I would like to pass the microphone directly to Laura, who will start with the technical side of the presentation. Thank you very much. Laura, over to you.
Thank you so much, Andy. And as usual, I will just start the presentation so that while I speak, you could also look at some beautiful places and of course some delicious dishes. Correct. So Tuscany is called the nation within the nation. Why that? Because it is a perfect mix of historical treasures considered one of a kind worldwide, and is a sort of whole world altogether. Now, you may know that it is located in the center of Italy, and 7 Tuscan places belong to the UNESCO World Heritage. So just to give you an example of how many important destinations and sites are enclosed to this small region. So what we will see today, we will see only part of the region, as we always do, so that we will focus very well on the tradition and on the culinary heritage that this region, of course, gives to Italy and to the whole world. So let's start with the flag, as usual. This is the symbol of Tuscany. It's the flag of Tuscany. And you can see there is the Pegasus. Why is that? Because Tuscany always considered itself as a free country with a strong linguistic and cultural identity. And the Pegasus is one of the symbols of freedom. So since the very beginning of this region, you could see the meaning of the symbol of Tuscany. Another symbol which is very famous all over the world for Tuscany and Florence in particular is the floral emblem of Florence, which is the lilium. You can see this is the official symbol of the city of Florence, but you can find the lilium pretty much everywhere, especially in Florence, included in the official golden Florentine coin, which is the florin. Florin in Italian means little flower, and you can see that is exactly a lilium represented on the old golden coins, which were the official coins not only in Tuscany, but in all Europe, because the florin was considered the official rate exchange for banks all over Europe up until the 16th century. So it's very ancient, of course, and very precious as well, because it was...
Well, Laura?
Yes.
Laura, sorry. So was this during the Renaissance that this coin was used all over Europe?
Also, yes. It
Wow.
began at during the Middle Ages, but it was used also during the Renaissance. So it lasted for many centuries, and it was made of pure gold. So depending, of course, on the weight of the florin, you could have a different value of the same coin. But all the coin had one side with the emblem of the lilium, as you can see here.
And this was the benchmark for the exchange of currency.
Exactly. Wow. And more or less 1 florin nowadays, it could have a value between 140 and 1,000 US dollars, just to give you a comparison. Of course, not only depending on the weight, so the gold inside the coin itself, but also depending on the dating of the coin, of course. The more ancient it is, the more is the value, of course. So talking about regional symbols, I want to move to a more natural one, which is Tuscany landscapes. This is in particular a picture of the Chianti countryside. And I believe that everybody has this picture in mind when thinks about Tuscany. So of course, this is one of the symbols itself of the region, together with one of the products that are traditional of the region, the extra virgin olive oil. Of course, as you know, Tuscany is not the only region to produce the extra virgin olive oil, but the Tuscan one is one of the mildest ones and one of the most refined. So it's very important as a product of the region. And then last but not least, I want to show you another symbol, culinary symbol of the region, which is the queen of the table, the Florentine beef stick. Of course, as you know, it is cut from the loin and it is very thick and it has a particular preparation so that only a few restaurants know how to prepare this meat very well. So if you go to Florence and if you love meat, definitely you must try one of that. Andy, did you try the Florentine stick in Tuscany ever before?
Me, yeah, I did. I mean, I lived in Florence for a year.
Ah, perfect. Did you like it?
It's a big steak usually. Yes, but you can't finish it. It's too big.
Exactly. It's more like a dinosaur's stick. But once in your life, you must try that. It's very particular and delicious if you love, of course, the meat. So after this introduction, I would love to go more in deep inside the program of the culinary adventures that you could do here in Italy. And of course, speaking about Tuscany, we will start from Florence, which is of course the capital of Tuscany and is the heart of the Renaissance period in not only in Tuscany, but in Italy in general. So we start from Florence. When we talk about Florence, we must talk about one family in particular, is the Medici family. This is, I introduce you, Lorenzo the Magnificent, is of course a member of the Medici family, which were a family of bankers, very, very rich and powerful in Florence. And they decided to start the takeover of the city government in the late Middle Ages. Actually, the father of this guy started everything, Cosimo de' Medici, but then Lorenzo is maybe the most famous member of the family. Why is that? Because he decided to be the patron of a movement, an artistic and in general for the arts and for the architecture and for the literature as well. He was a sort of the patron of the grandness of Florence itself. So this is the coat of arms of the Medici family, the Medici's balls. And you can see this is a symbol which is pretty much everywhere in Florence because they owned so many palaces and they wanted their symbol to be well visible and everywhere in strategical places for the civil and the religious life in Florence. You may notice that one of the balls is not red, but it's blue with the golden lilium. This is actually the symbol of France, because at some point the history of France and the history of the family of Medici just melt together. and they just earned also the symbol of France. And it also started with Lorenzo. So under Lorenzo il Magnifico, the coat of arms just changed slightly to add this particular ball. So you can see that the symbol is not everywhere the same, but it changes during the years of the same family. I'm sure you have noticed that in Florence as well.
Yeah, they're everywhere. So many buildings have those symbols, so many.
Exactly. And one fun fact is that Lorenzo died in 1492. That is, of course, the same year of Cristoforo Colombo's arrival to the Americas, and is is considered the official end of the Middle Ages and the official beginning of the Renaissance. So it's a fun fact that Lorenzo died in the exact year, and this is his tomb in the Medici Chapel, of course, in Florence. So you could see this beautiful monument dedicated to the whole family and to the whole members of the family. It is open not every day. It is not so easy to visit, but if you move in advance, you can book an entrance, and it's really beautiful, all marble and colored and very rich. It's very beautiful. I don't know if you have seen the Medici Chapel as well.
No, no, I didn't. No, I'm not really into history, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
I stop at the nearest restaurant or bar and have something.
Well, that's something. And in general, it is not so well known, so that only if you're a fan of the family or history in general, you go to visit it. So it's normal that not everyone knows the Medici chapels. So, of course, Florence was also the city of Dante and so many different artists. So you could see all of that just wandering around Florence. For example, this is the Basilica of Santa Croce, which is not even the cathedral. It's just a regular church. And the statue of Dante, who looks at us looking not so happy. Why is that? Because, of course, Dante was exiliated and he died in Ravenna. He was he never came back to Florence, and he died away from his city. So then the city decided to make him a statue, but outside the church where so many different artists and painters of Florence are buried. So if you go inside this church, you could see the tombs of many Florentine artists. And
one interesting thing about this church, I looked on the outside a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few of those sculptures are kind of a mixed religion. There is Catholic, but there's also Templar. And there are other elements as well, which was kind of interesting to see the different religions mixed on the front of a cathedral or a church.
It is indeed, and you should consider that despite what people think about the Middle Ages, it was an era of freedom for artists and for painters, for writers. So you could not only see the tombs of people, Italian people who of course were Catholic, because at that time all Italians were Catholic, but also it is, as you said, a temple, a symbol for the art itself. So it's religious, but not so religious, if you think about that. And Dante was, again, he was Catholic, but he went against so many popes. He writes against so many popes in his Divina Commedia. So, but at the same time, he was celebrated by the city as a great artist. So this must give you an idea of how the city of Florence considered an artist, not depending on which religion was part, but depending on the value of his work. So it's a great thing about Florence. And this is also because Florence was a free city and it has been free for so much time. He was annexed to the Pontifex territory only in the 19th century. So many centuries of freedom, of course, help the development of art and in general of artistic movements. So again, the best thing to do when you go to Florence is actually just lose the map and wander around. So this is, for example, the old pharmacy, the old spicery that you could find inside the church again, but this was a real pharmacy, and it's the most ancient of Europe, and it's visible nowadays. So it's open if you go to the back door of the church of Santa Maria Novella. You could find this beautiful place to visit. And then moving on a little bit to a most recent era of Florence, of course, we have the Renaissance. So after Lorenzo de' Medici, it starts a period that again is very, very important, not only for this city in particular, but for all Italy and the whole world. So this is the Uffizi Gallery. This is actually part of the Uffizi Gallery because the museum is huge. And inside this gallery, you can find basically a summary of all the best production of painters and sculptors and artists in general. So it's a beautiful place. And if you have one day in Florence, you should really pay a visit. Together with the Uffizi Gallery, we have the Accademia Gallery with this statue, which is probably the most famous one in the museum, is of course the masterpiece of Michelangelo, is the David. And you should not just exchange the original one, which is this one inside the gallery, with the copy, a reproduction, which is open air in front of Palazzo Vecchio, and you could see just walking around Venice, but that is not the original one. So you should go inside the museum to see the original one. And again, it's worth the visit. It's just breathtaking and so much beautiful.
There's actually a full-size copy of this statue in a new development on the Gold Coast in Australia.
Oh, really?
It used to be, yeah, it used to be in a shopping center in Surfers Paradise, Gold Coast. So it's been there for at least 30 years, maybe 40, but it's exact replica, same size, everything. So I don't know who made it, but
it is interesting because actually only in Florence there are 3 different reproductions plus the original one. So you can imagine how this statue was famous since the beginning, you know, since when Michelangelo finished it. It was already considered a masterpiece, and for that reason it was copied so many times from and put in strategical places, not only in Florence, but also in Australia. So it's nice to know, to be appreciated all over the world, you know. And so, of course, this is one of the jewels of the city as well. This is the cathedral, the complex of the cathedral. And again, you could spend maybe 2 days inside of here because there are so many details to see and appreciate. And again, it is a must if you go to Florence, also just for sit down and look at the atmosphere around the cathedral, because it's also a meeting point for couples, for young people. So it's very lively. Of course, not right now, because right now we have in place some restrictions, but hopefully it will be again very, very soon. So after walking for long in the historical center, definitely you must pay a stop to one of the markets of the city. There are many, not just one. This one is in particular is the central market of the city. It's new and it has a structure, so it's completely covered. And but there are many, many different markets throughout all the cities. And
this is Mercato Centrale, isn't it?
Yes, it is. This is the Mercato Centrale. and is the new section of the market. And they are a sort of...
Can you see, sorry, see that restaurant on the left-hand side where you see those timber chairs?
Sure.
Yeah, I was the CEO of that restaurant. That was part of the complex that I
really?
managed. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was part of the complex that I managed. That restaurant was one of them.
Nice.
And they made a really, really good Fiorentina.
Well, if you want to try a Fiorentina, you're definitely in the right place over here, as well as many different other traditional dishes, because in this market, the beauty of this market is that you could find the regular stands with simply the products to buy and to prepare at home, but you could also find stands which are proper restaurants, as you said. And in that case, especially if you don't have much time or if you're a tourist, you could go there and try the final preparations and the final dishes. And they are all based on a concept of 0 kilometers, so local products, local food, and local preparation. So it's
this is on the first floor. Next floor down is actually a market. It's a fully functioning normal fruit, vegetables, fish market.
Exactly. So the beauty of this place is that you could still find my grandma going just for shopping at the real market. And then upstairs, you could find the nephew doing the aperitif before dinner, or try a Florentine stick, as you said. So it's a mix that combines together all the needs of the neighborhood. So it has more than one function, and this is the beauty of this place. And this is why it is so loved also by the Florentine people. It is not only for tourists. You could find so many local people over there. So it's very beautiful. And after buying the local products, of course, you could also go to have a cooking class, which is part of the program in the EnoGastronomic Adventures, so that you will have a walk with a proper chef, a local chef, to find and know the best local products. And then you could go to the location of the cooking class to prepare the food, and then of course to taste the meal. So it's the best way to end your day in Florence. And after Florence, I would like to move on to another area of Tuscany, which I love very much, which is the area of Siena and San Gimignano. I love history, so this is an area that represents very well the Middle Ages, but it also offers a fantastic culinary tradition. So I'm sure you will love it as well. And so let's start with the main center of this area, which is of course Siena. Everyone knows probably this picture. This is the main square of the city, is Piazza del Campo. It's an irregular square. And by the way, also in here is led a market once a week, as in almost every little town in Italy. They do have the local farmer market, but it is not famous for the market, but for another event or two. What is that? Is the Palio. Of course, this is an historical event. It's a horse race that takes place twice a year in summer, once in July and again in August. And what happens? The city is divided into contrade, or districts, and each horse represents one of the districts. And they have this race. Why I say the horse? Because the race can be won even if the person is not on the horse anymore, because the horse is important. And this is something very, very particular. They are, of course, they are trained and they are very expert, because it is not an easy race. There are people, as you can see, this is of course not taken this year. This is a picture from the past, with so many people and in the center of the square, and the race takes place around the square. And then of course the first horse to arrive is the winner. So it's pretty easy, but very hard in reality. So as I said, what happens? It happens that for every race, there are 10 contradas racing amongst the 17 districts of the city nowadays. But back in the past, there were 59 contradas. So you can imagine how it was important to cultivate the belonging to your own contrada. And still now there are district dinners and gatherings, so it's beautiful. And it's very beautiful to go there to participate to some of these events during the Palio and to be part of such an historical event. Consider that the first written paper that nominates a horse race in Siena is dated back to the 6th century. So it's such an ancient event. And after the Palio, you should really, really go to see another beautiful place of the city. This is a library inside the cathedral. Why a library? Because it is not a religion site. It is the Libreria Piccolomini, the Piccolomini library that was built again at the end of the 15th century. And it was the private library of the family Piccolomini, one of the most powerful family Piccolomini that is dedicated to the Pope Pio II. Piccolomini as well was part of the family, and he donated many different books to the city and to the family in Siena. So the Piccolomini family decided to build this huge library inside the cathedral with frescoes by the painter Pinturicchio. So it's a very important site. And now there has been a huge restoration. So the new Piccolomini chapel has been reopened after a couple of years of restoration with the bright colors. It's very, very beautiful. So you should really go to see that again if you have in the past, because now you could see the original colors back, especially the blues. So it's very, very beautiful. But moving on to a subject that is more familiar for you. What do you eat in Siena? Definitely, if you go to Siena, you must try the panforte. I don't know if you did in the past.
I try everything. It's got to do with food.
Well, that's just perfect. So why the panforte? Panforte in Italian means hard bread. Why? Because the original recipe was very, very spicy, with so many spicy and pepper. So it had a very strong flavor. Now it is more like a dessert. It's very chewy and it contains fruits and nuts and some cinnamon as well. So the consistency is very soft and the flavor is nowadays sweet. But consider that the first recipe of this dessert dates back the 13th century. So again, another very ancient recipe. We have so many ancient recipes that of course nowadays are a little different because it's impossible. Tastes change in the centuries, but there are still some tastes from the original one.
Also a good idea that if you have a few slices, don't count the calories.
Yeah, it's better not. But this is very traditional in winter. So it's cold and you can eat it. And so definitely you should try it because it's very particular and you could only find it in this area of Tuscany and Italy. So if you go to the north or the south of Italy, you don't find this particular food. This is considered a proper regional food. So moving on to the second medieval town, we have San Gimignano. San Gimignano is of course famous for the many towers. But why there are so many towers? Consider that now there are 13 left, but there used to be 72 towers in the city. Why? Because there were two famous families of San Gimignano, the Guelphs and the Ghibellines, that were fighting to decide which one was more powerful and was the real ruler of the city. So they started to build so many towers to demonstrate their power. And the skyline at that point was very look like New York. Can you imagine 72 towers on the top of a hill of such a small town like San Gimignano? It was a lot.
I went there for the truffle festival.
Exactly. Yes. Not everybody knows that this area is famous for the white truffle. As we spoke about the white truffle in the Piedmont session, but also the San Gimignano area is famous for the brown, but also for the white truffle. They are good and they are refined, and they of course led a festival to celebrate the tuber. Another product that is typical of this area is the vernaccia. Vernaccia is a delicious wine, is a white wine, and since the Renaissance it has been considered one of Italy's finest wines. So of course it's a dry one with crisp acidity and a bitter finish. It's very particular, and again, as many times happens in Italy, only a few municipalities have the permission to call their wine the Vernaccia of San Gimignano, because it is a product with grapes related to the location of the vineyards, and of course the vineyard of Vernaccia, which is a particular one. Do you like it?
I do. I do. I was gonna say, when I went for the festival, I enjoyed the Vernaccia wine. I enjoyed the chestnuts, but as you know, I hate truffle.
Yeah, you're right.
Which was really hard because there was truffle everywhere. There were stands everywhere. You could not get away from it at all. And I just don't like the smell, the odor of the truffle. So I drank.
Well, it's a good way, and maybe next time you could go to the Chestnut Festival, so it will be more that and less truffles, probably.
I hope so.
So I want to show you a different picture. Do you know which part of Tuscany is that? It's
I've seen this
particular.
photograph before, but I don't know.
It is called it is considered a lunar territory, and is actually the countryside around Siena and San Gimignano. So if you go around Siena, you can't find the green hillsides and vineyards, but you will find this kind of landscapes. It's very gray and yellow, and the English name is Clays of Siena. Very particular, and this is how it is the landscape all around Siena. Of course, the soil is perfect for the production of the traditional terracotta crockeries, so it is very common to find vases and plates made of terracotta around this area. So just to show you some of the beauties of this region, and to finish with the kings of the whole area, not only of Siena, but in general of all Tuscany. These are products made out of the Cinta porks. They, around Siena and in Tuscany in general, they have this special pork breeding, which is local. They only have a few of them, and they make delicious savory curd meats. So you could find here a demonstration of the kind of products you could taste in Siena. They made cured meats out of the porks as well as the wild boars. So you could try both and then choose which ones you prefer. It's very hard to say. So after, trying something savory, I would like to leave the area of Siena with another dessert, which is very, very traditional. This is the town of Volterra, and the dessert is the ricciarelli biscuits. It's very famous because it's traditional for Christmas celebration to bring to your hosts the ricciarelli biscuits. You could find the handmade ones in the bakeries, but you could find it also at the supermarkets, because there are some ricciarelli brands which are very famous, and you could simply buy that also at the supermarkets, even if, of course, the ones made at the bakery or the ones you made at home are better. You know that, of course. So why Volterra? Because the tradition says that these biscuits were dedicated to a family that was the family owner of the city of Volterra. So traditionally, this is the area which is still very close to Siena, from where these biscuits are made. And they are made using almond base with sugar, honey, and egg whites. So they are very, very sugary. They're very sweet, and they are delicious. Did you know that?
No, I've never tried this biscuit.
Maybe because they are typical for Christmas. So you don't find
Ah,
it, for example, in summer. You could only find it in winter, and especially for the Christmas celebrations. And they are perfect at the end of the meal with the dessert wine. So with the Vinsanto or a Moscato, with the sweet dessert wines, they're just perfect, and they are soft.
how come in Italy everything is perfect with some wine?
You're right. You're
Doesn't
right.
matter who you ask, everything, even a plate of salad goes well with wine.
We do that so that you could have a wine paired to a food every time. So you could change the wine and the food and still find the perfect match.
It sounds like heaven.
Well, if you come here and if you enjoy the adventures, then you will be the judge. So
True.
you could tell us. And so I want to move on to another area of Tuscany, which I love very much, also because it is the closest to Roma, which is my city. So it's the south of Tuscany. That is the place also where you can find the most delicious red wines, but we will go there. So if you love food and wine, you definitely must go to the south of Tuscany, where you could find so many hamlets in the area called the Val d'Orcia. The Val d'Orcia area itself has been declared altogether UNESCO heritage site. So not one site in particular, but the whole area of the south of Tuscany. So the best way to appreciate it is actually to wander around and again to lose yourself between the vineyards, the many vineyards of the area, and then to stop here and there to taste the wines and the food. This town in particular is very important. It's the town of Pienza. It's a very small town, as you can see. That's it. There's nothing more, but it's so much famous for a particular product, which is this one, the pecorino of Pienza. In Italy, everybody knows the pecorino cheese of Pienza, and it was brought by the Sardinian shepherds who migrated to this particular part of Tuscany with their sheep. So this is why it's a sheep cheese, because it comes from the tradition of Sardinian cheeses. And it is aged in molds that are made from wine barrels, and it earns flavors of wine, chestnut, laurel, and other wild plants and herbs that the sheep graze and transfer into their milk. So it's something very, very particular to try. And again, the best way to eat this cheese, guess what it is?
With wine?
Exactly. a delicious glass of red wines. Here in this part of Tuscany, you have red wines for every tastes. So this one in particular, for example, is the picture of the Brunello di Montalcino. Montalcino itself is this another town, is the name of the town, very close to Pienza. And it is very famous, as well as the other red wine, really famous, the Rosso of Montepulciano. All these names come from the names of the hamlets. So they are very, very small town, but with a very ancient and long tradition of harvesting of these delicious wines. So you should just pick one driver, sober, and with the car, you could just stop by the many vineyards and enjoy the tasting, which is exactly what we do during the culinary adventures, so that you could really compare the different wines and then choose the ones, of course, that you prefer. And what is the best way, another best way to match a red wine? The pasta. In Tuscany, they have this particular pasta, is named pici, which is a hand-rolled pasta made just from flour and water. So a very simple pasta, but with usually accompanied by very strong ragùs. So this one, for example, is a white ragù with, again, the cinta senese. So very, very strong and delicious. But you could also find the pici with the more traditional tomato ragù, with meat sauce, or even with the butter. But it is preferable to match it with a sauce because of this particular type of pasta. Did you try the
What
pici?
did you call it? The pasta? What did you call it?
Pici.
So peach is a type of spaghetti, I guess.
It is the shape is like the spaghetti, but it's not made with. It is made with flour and water, so it is not dried. It's fresh pasta.
Ah, okay.
And you can't buy that at a supermarket or whatsoever. So you have to buy that fresh or to make it by yourself. It's also very easy to make because they are very thick. So it's not so hard to make it with your hands. It is not so hard to make it at home. Of course, you do that usually on Saturday during the afternoon, then you leave it for the whole night to just sit, and then you make it for the lunch on Sunday.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is, and they are delicious. So again, another thing to try, so put it on your list.
My list is getting longer and longer.
I
am
know that.
contemplating joining a gym before I actually start to travel.
Well, to be honest, when you go to Italy, yes, it's true that you usually eat a lot because you want to try so many different food, but it's also true that you walk a lot. So at the same time, you exercise yourself, and then this is your price for the effort that you made during the day. So probably you will not need the gym after all.
No, but Laura, when I was in Florence, every 5 steps, there was a good restaurant.
Yeah, it's true.
So the walking just didn't make up.
Okay, so just prepare your subscription to the gym before
Well,
coming.
that's too good. That's the problem. I mean, you walk past a restaurant, you can smell the food and you have to walk in,
That's true.
even if you're not hungry. It's just too good.
That's true. And you will see now that I will bring you to another part of Tuscany with, again, different food traditions, but it's the last one. So then you could just, rest and just think about your exercises. So the last area that I wanted to show you is probably the less known area. It is very famous because it's the area of the city of Pisa, and everybody knows the city of Pisa, but all the countryside and the surrounding landscapes are less known because people usually go to Pisa and go back. And I would love to show you something about the western of Tuscany. So I will start from this picture. This is a picture of the Maremma Toscana, which is again the countryside of the western side of the region, the western of Tuscany, which could be compared to the far west in the United States. Why is that? Because there are proper cowboys. Of course, we don't call them cowboys because for us, the correct name is butero, and we don't have buffaloes as yours, as the ones in the Americas. So we have these white cows or buffaloes as well, but they are smaller, of course, and a little different. But it's an area which is still very rural and very wild. So if you love nature, probably is an area you should visit. And of course, it's not so tourist as the other areas we have seen so far. So definitely, if you want to see something less common in Tuscany, you should pay a visit to the Maremma area. Did you go there? Have you visited?
No, I didn't.
And it's where the Florentine stick is from, because this is a cape for the Florentine stick as well. So you could see the raw animals, the proper animals, of course. And as I said, it is not only an area very wild, because in the west of Tuscany, there are two main centers which are very, very important for art and history. The first one, as I said, probably everybody knows it, is Pisa. This is particular of the tower, the Leaning Tower, which is the bell tower of the cathedral. So this is a view of the whole square of the cathedral, which is known as the Square of Miracles. Why the miracles? Because each one of these monuments is very close to the perfection. So this is why it's called the Square of Miracles. And then, of course, because the Leaning Tower started to lean very, very soon from the construction, because there has been an error and they didn't consider that the floor could not hold the weight of the tower. It was too weight. So it started to lean immediately, but then at some point it stopped and remained as it is. So right now it is stable. Also, of course, because they check it regularly. So every time they see some change, there is an intervention. But basically, it is stable. So a sort of miracle that didn't just fall down from the beginning. And you can see this architectural style, which is very particular and is pretty much unique in Italy, is the Romanesque style, with this regular structure and symmetrical colonnades. It's one of a kind, and is all enclosed in this beautiful square. Of course, usually it's very, very crowded. So the key is to go there outside the peak of the season. It's a completely different experience if you go there, for example, in winter, because there are not so many people just taking the picture as we all see, just holding the tower, and you could appreciate more the square itself and the beauty of the monuments. So this was the first center, and the second one is maybe even more important, is the city of Lucca, again in the very west of Tuscany, which is one of the most ancient republics of Italy, founded in 1160, so dates back to the 12th century, and it lose the independency only with Napoleon. So only in the 1805, Napoleon decided to found the Principality of Lucca and Piombino. So decided to melt the two towns all together and decided to put as a ruler of this principality his sister, Elisa Bonaparte. And it is not only famous because it represents the ideal city of the Renaissance, because it was self-sufficient and perfectly organized. And you could also see from the shape of the city, it has a perfect shape, but it is also the hometown of this guy. I don't know if you know who is he.
I should, but I don't remember the name.
Don't worry. He is the composer.
Puccini?
Exactly.
It's
That's
written
right.
under the photo.
That's right. He is the composer Giacomo Puccini. He was born in Lucca, and of course, he is famous, I believe, all over the world for masterpieces such as La Bohème or the Tosca, Madame Butterfly, and so many other pieces that are played every year during a music festival. It's a summer festival that is led very, very close to Lucca, to a town that is named Torre del Lago Puccini, for after him, of course. And it's very beautiful because the stalls and the theater is on the lake. So it's a particular landscapes and atmosphere, and the festival is led at night. So you are on the water and you hear this beautiful music. So definitely, if you love classical music, it's something you should attend once in your life.
Well, I'm not historical, I'm not musical either. I am what you
Okay.
call uncultured.
Well, every one of us has, you know, something in particular we love. The key is to find the right things.
I'm still looking.
But if you love music, you know, everyone who loves music should go there because it's very, very particular. And so I would love to finish this session with the presentation of some recipes from the so-called regional cuisine. We learned from the previous regions that there is actually no regional cuisine in Italy, because pretty much every person has his own recipes and just claims to be the original one. But I will try to show you some recipes that are very well known all over Tuscany. So the first one is the papal pomodoro. The papal pomodoro is a Tuscany tomato bread soup. And again, as you can imagine, it has different ingredients and preparations because they all depend on seasonality. And it is a recipe that was influenced by the Middle Ages time. So again, a very ancient recipe that right now has so many different preparations at home, but also at the restaurants. So you could also find it in a menu of the restaurant. Probably the most famous version of this soup is this one, the Ribollita. Have you tried that in Florence?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. The Ribollita in Italian means reboiled, literally, because this soup has two preparations. There is a first, once it's boiled, and then they let the soup chill, and then they reheat it so that it adds some flavor, because it is made out of such a simple ingredient, so it needs just to sit a little bit to gain some flavor. And it typically contains the black cabbage, Savoy cabbage, the cannellini beans, and stale bread. But again, it is a seasonal soup, so basically depending on the season and the availability of vegetables, you could just try your own version. And it is delicious, especially of course in winter, but you could also try that just not very hot in summer, so you could eat at every season. Did you try the winter version, the hot one?
You mean spicy hot or?
No, I mean the warm one, or
No, usually I had the ribollita in a roll, like a sandwich,
oh,
like a
really?
burger.
That's
Yeah, in the
another
street,
way to
street
have it.
sellers. Yeah, street sellers were selling like that. So that's usually how I had it. I made a mess when I was eating, but
Yeah, you're
that's
right. It's not so
that's what I
easy to eat it as a
no,
sandwich. And
no.
we decided to present it as one of the recipe to leave to you, because it is open to many different preparations. So we are just curious to know which changes and additions you could make to this particular recipe. So this is one of the recipes that you will receive later on to as a gift to the participants of this session. So after eating the soup, what is the best way to continue your lunch with something stronger? This is the pappardelle ragù, the cinghiale. Cinghiale in Italian means wild boar. Wild boar. So this is a wild boar ragu sauce, and the pappardella is a ribbon pasta with egg dove. So it's a very strong dish and not so easy actually to prepare. So the best way is to go to a good restaurant and to have a good plate of this dish. And it's very aromatic and in my opinion, just delicious. It's very strong, so not everyone loves the wild boar sauce. Personally, I do. And so after the pappardella, probably you will have some space just for the dessert. So another very regional dessert is the Cantucci. The traditional Cantucci is probably the most famous Tuscan biscuits. And they are twice baked, so they are extra crunchy, and they have almonds in it. So the white drops that you can see are the almonds, and they are perfect for the afternoon break with the coffee or the tea. Or another version, which is my favorite, once again, is the one at the end of the meat. So at the end of a good lunch or dinner, they serve, especially restaurants, serve you the Cantucci with the Vinsanto. Again, is a dessert, very sweet wine, and you can dunk the Cantucci into the Vinsanto. So my toast for you today is the one at the end of the meal with the Cantucci. And this ends the presentation of the EnoGastronomic Adventure in Tuscany.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Really, it's been interesting, and yeah, I was smiling because, like I said, there's always wine involved in Italy for some reason. So Italians always seem to be extremely happy about the fact that soon they'll be eating and drinking something. Food here seems to be an ongoing experience. I realize that you have set times in theory for lunch and dinner, but it's very rare that you don't see Italians eating something all the time, and enjoying it with their friends, having a glass of wine or even beer sometimes, which is it's excellent. Now, look, I think all of these webinars are very informative, and I really do invite more and more members of MasterChef to join so they can ask questions, because obviously they can see and hear the recording, but you don't have the opportunity to ask questions, which they may have. And hopefully, once this COVID issue is over, they'll join us in Italy for some food and some drink during one of these adventures. That's the whole idea.
They will be very welcome. And as you said, for us, the table is not just a moment to eat, it's a moment to share something, an experience with other people, with our friends, with our family, with the people we love. So what we try to do is to share these feelings also with people who are visiting our country, to let them know how we feel about eating and drinking. So this is why probably we are so crazy about food and wine.
No, but I think you're right. Look, as you know, I was brought up in Australia. I mean, I was trained by the Japanese, so they don't eat slowly. They tend to go very quickly during business lunches or dinners. But I know that every time I go to a restaurant, the waiter is always surprised how quickly I finish eating. Because, as you said here, eating is a real art. It's part of the culture. So you eat a little bit, you look around, you have a sip of wine, you look around a little bit more, you have a chat, then you eat a bit more. So what I do in half an hour, an Italian takes 2 hours, but I enjoy every bite. And
That's
I
true.
think that's the difference. And I think that's the beauty of it. And to be able to experience in the actual region where the food really comes from is totally different than, for example, with me, go to Sydney and have a Napolitan pizza. I understand that it's really well made and it's, the real thing, but the taste is different. The atmosphere is different than having, say, pizza in Naples or having these dishes in Tuscany. The atmosphere adds.
You're
But
right. And at the end of the day, also having the, let's call it the original experience, gives you the chance to recreate something yours at home then later, because you know where um, where you start, and then you bring a tradition and something very ancient, you bring it home and you make it yours. So I think it's also very important.
yes,
Many people visiting Italy then start to have an aperitif or a dinner once in a while with their family or their friends, as we do, because they love what we do and they want to duplicate. So it doesn't matter if you don't have the Cantucci, maybe you have a brownie or a scone or something like that, but you bring something about the Italian culture and tradition with you. So it's very nice for us.
look, I mean, I like to thank the people that have joined us and thank you again for the time you've dedicated to educate us and make us hungry because now I'm hungry.
Well, you're welcome. And we hope to start with real adventures very soon so that we could eat for real, not just through the pictures, and we could make you live these experiences as well.
No, thank you very much again, Laura, and thank you everybody else for attending. And we'll see you in 3 weeks, I think.
We'll be
So
here.
it's always on Monday. It's always 3 o'clock Italian time. And the recordings are also loaded on the YouTube channel. So for people that cannot make it, they can go to the YouTube channel and I will load them or uh, share them with the various groups of MasterChef as well. So people can check them out there if they wish. But please, if you can attend, it'll be much better because it's much more interesting for you. So you can ask questions. Again, thank you very much and shall see you next time.
Thank you and ciao.